Welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is Jossie Talks number 5, which for those of you who have joined us and have continued to join us, thank you, because I know there are so many different types of conversations and webinars and platforms available at the moment for you. So that you're regularly joining in and tuning in and giving us your time. We're extremely grateful for that. So thank you. Today's is going to be super conversational. We're going to be talking all about you, all about assistance. I've got Bonnie here who's going to be leading the discussion, and we're super excited to have her here. If you don't know her, Bonnie is at the forefront of thought leadership in our industry. She's an international speaker, a best-selling author. Her book's available on Amazon. Be the Ultimate Assistant. She conducts BUTA with last week's speaker Vicky, who a lot of you loved. She's spent, was it 20, how many years? 20 years?
25 years with Olympia Dukakis.
25 years with Olympia Dukakis, the Hollywood actor. Look Who's Talking. I love that film. One of my favorite films.
Steel Magnolias.
I cannot imagine the stories you must have having spent that long with her. But thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to be discussing why we think assistants are more important than ever. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we're going to be giving you the confidence to understand your value, why now is the time to seize the opportunities available to you to have your voice heard, I suppose, and give you some strategies to exert influence and persuasion skills. So Bonnie, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background and how we came to meet?
Right. Well, I'm a Jersey girl, and Savannah, I'm so glad to have gotten to know you, and you and your team came to our New York City Be the Ultimate Assistant class in March 6th and 7th, if you can believe that. I can't believe that actually happened.
Feels like such a long time ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know so much has happened. I worked with Olympia Dukakis for 25 years, and it was a dream job. But I was so aware of the lack of resources for the women and men doing this work all over the world. And so I was frustrated, and that's what led me to write the book and Be the Ultimate Assistant. And then the book was the thing that led me to be thinking, well, where's the training? My thought always was then, I wanted to be as great an assistant as Olympia is an actress. And I was like, where can I be helped to do that? And I didn't see it. I didn't see the training that would support assistants to function at the very highest levels. And so that's what led me to create the Be the Ultimate Assistant workshops, which I do with Vicki Evans all over the world. We're in our 9th year right now. And, we teach the smartest people, because the assistants of the world, what I know about you is that you are some of the smartest, most resourceful, most creative people walking around. And you are the backbones of the companies.
Totally.
And so what I experienced is that for a very long time, I was winging it every single day. And I meet assistants in the work I do who know that feeling of winging it every single day. And I got to tell you, in this complicated workplace, that's a formula for failure now. It cannot be any longer that assistants are winging it every single day. But I am here to say that the assistants of the world, up until this crisis, have succeeded in spite of the lack of training, rather than because you've been supported in any particularly powerful way. I mean, it really is testament. Think about the learning curves. How many computers have you had? How many cell phones have you had? The learning curves that have been required over these years has been extraordinary, and we need to give ourselves credit for that.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I think, if I just think about Sarah, who works at Joss Search, she's our office manager, she's our hidden hero. The amount of stuff we chuck at her, and she's like, I've never done this before, but okay, I will
right.
And we don't often give her the training, because there isn't, like you say, there isn't loads of training available. So
right.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having us. We're going to cover, I think we've got 4 topics we're going to cover.
Okay.
Both Bonnie and I do like a chat. So if we waffle at any point, I'm sorry. If we ramble on, we've got people nudging us. We've got the team in the background who can give us nudges so that we can get through as much
And we've got some BTUAers on the call. Welcome, welcome. You all know what this is about. Thank you for being here.
That's so cool. And we're going to be running, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So we're going to run, we get so many questions and we can't possibly answer them all. So what we're going to do is we're going to run regular polls. Our team in the background are going to be pulling together questions and regularly giving you the chance to vote on the question you want to hear answered in real time. So please just continue to send through your questions and you'll all be given the chance along the way to answer them. So I'm not going to go into loads of detail about Joss Search or me, but I just a very quick overview of why we're having this conversation. We've been going for 10 years and our mission, most of you, well, some of you know, some of you don't, but most of you do, is to champion hidden heroes. So we're all about championing the support staff and championing the people behind the scenes who don't have the opportunity to have a voice all the time. And we want to be their voice. And we're in a unique position because we speak to the clients and the candidates all the time. So we're given a huge amount of information and our job is to try and make both sides better for each other. And that's what we've always tried to do. And that's what we will continue to do. That's why we launched these talks, and that's why we will continue to launch these talks. And actually, just sort of quite nicely, I think, leading on to our first topic, Bonnie, is why you and I both feel that assistants are more important than ever. And I'm just going to give a quick overview of why we decided this to be for the first topic. Was it yesterday or the day before? We were talking about the senior leadership team meeting at Joss Search, and we were saying how Sarah, sorry, I'm probably going to be really embarrassing you right now, but sorry. Sarah's part of her development plan was she wanted to be the senior leadership team meetings, which historically have been for the salespeople in the business. And over the last few months, she's been taking part in them, and her insight has been absolutely invaluable to the type of conversations we've been having, because it's a completely different perspective. You know, she comes at things with a completely different perspective to us and takes us out of our echo chamber. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about cognitive diversity throughout this call, but it was just a good example, and we thought it was something relevant to share, and gave an example of why we think it is really important for people in support roles to have their voices heard right now. So first question I pose is, COVID-19 has been a seismic shift for everyone. What has been your general observations, and how have these affected assistants overall, Bonnie?
Oh boy. You know, the thing that is so striking about this COVID-19 pandemic is how fast it happened. I mean, we just said you were in New York with your team with us on March 6th and 7th when there were 2 cases. And now it's the epicenter of this crisis. So, when this happened, I had a massive case of deja vu back to 9/11, which amazingly was 19 years ago. But I'm sure many people on the call remember 9/11 and the upheaval that caused, and the unemployment, and the global turmoil. And then, of course, more recently, we had the 2008 financial bust. And that, again, threw the workplace into chaos. The thing that's different now, though, is, there's a lot in common with those 2 crises. The thing that's in common is that the assistants of the world rose to the occasion, that they were called upon to do things that they've never done before, that they were forced into this new chaotic situation. And that actually is the thing that's playing to assistants' strengths, because the assistants of the world, that by nature, you are planners, you know how to respond to fast change. This, however, has been like a tsunami that hit us. This has been different, and dare I say, worse. I mean,
I feel like it's worse.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think there'd be anything worse than 9/11, frankly. But this is so global and so extreme and so complete, and it happened so fast. So I see that assistants are now being called upon again to rise to the occasion, and they're doing it all over the world. But one of the main differences is the wonderful ability to bring the world together on a call like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall that happening, certainly not after 9/11. And it is not to this degree, and certainly not after 2008. So this actually is one of the bright spots of this crisis, is that we now have the ability to have these conversations and to get chats directly from, in the chat, there's New Jersey right underneath Africa,
France.
right under Scotland's, like
Yeah.
when could that happen?
No.
So and one other thing about general observations is that just like in those other crises, just like in any crisis, it causes anxiety and stress and a preoccupation and worry and concern. And that is what I'm hearing from all over the world. And it is natural. I'm feeling it myself.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, mainly because, there are so many unanswered questions. But this is where we as a community, as a profession, need to pull together. And together we will find those answers. And that's the reason why I love these conversations. So thank you so much.
No, I totally agree. I think one of the great things about the last 70 years is globalization. It's brought billions of people out of poverty. And I think there has been, certainly a fear of mine is that something like this would cause closing of borders and countries to only think about themselves. And I think in some respects, our leaders, political leaders, are doing that. But what's been so nice, certainly outside of that, is that everyone else actually recognizes the value of globalization and being one community. And when I think about EAs, I think about team players. I think about people who enjoy being part of a team. And I think sometimes that can get lost, and actually this is the most important thing, is being collaborative and working together, in your organization, having your group of assistants collectively trying to solve these problems, because I think no one has all the answers. And that's probably something that, we as a nation, we're so individualistic, and we put individuals on a pedestal, and actually the people behind the scenes are really important right now, and need to come together to give give their perspective.
Yeah, nobody gets there alone. Everybody is standing on somebody else's shoulders.
Totally.
I'm standing on Olympia's shoulders. My BTUAers will remember what I say in class, which is that for 25 years, Olympia would say to me, Bonnie, you don't have to be an expert in everything, but you do need to know who the experts are to go to get the answers we need fast. So we know that not any one person can know everything. What the assistants of the world need to really take a fresh look at, in my view, is their own SME, SME, your own subject matter expertise. You have been hired at your company for at least one reason, probably many reasons, as have the people around you, the people on your team, the people on other teams. And oh my goodness, now is the time, if you don't already know the areas of expertise of the people around you who, in my view, are your golden resources. This is it. This is it. We're going to need everybody to pull us out of this and get into reentry.
Yeah, everyone in your team will have a superpower, and it's about not accepting that you're not going to have all the answers and tapping into that, right?
Right. Leveraging them.
Totally.
That is smart to do. Absolutely.
Yeah, smart leaders do that. It's the resourceful part. So what are the main challenges that you've seen for assistants at the moment?
Adjusting to this is one. I think it's not logical or reasonable to think that this form of communication, starting with that, is easy for everybody. Not everybody was using Zoom or video conferencing. And when you're used to going into an office every day, this can be really disconcerting. I'm grateful Vicki Evans and I have been doing this for a number of years, because I remember the first time looking into a webcam rather than looking at the monitor. If you're the one who's familiar with that, that's great. One of the other challenges, a big one, is that the assistants of the world who have had a wonderful relationship with your executives, but now all of a sudden, in 5 minutes, like I've talked to some assistants who in 2 days had to completely move their office to their home. This is happening so fast. And that sudden change, I mean, people are resistant to change anyway. Let's just be honest about that. But in addition, like to take a relationship, a partnership that's working really well, and now all of a sudden it's a whole new ballgame working remotely. And I've talked to many pairs of assistants and leaders. It's not seamless. It is going to require, additional communication. It could add more stress, more anxiety, trust issues. And, a lot of assistants are feeling in a vacuum. They feel isolated and out of the loop. And I know we're going to talk in this hour about ways to get back into that loop. But let me just validate that's challenging.
That's
to
not a nice feeling.
Recalibrate. Say that again.
It's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling.
Well, it's like, you have it down. You have a set of systems that you have, really together. It's been moving, you know what it is. And then all of a sudden there's this new abnormal. A lot of people are calling it the new normal, but some are calling it the new abnormal. And so these are some of the challenges. Some assistants have too much work to do, and other assistants are finding themselves with not very much to do. And so we've got some solutions for that as well. Yeah. So let us take a breath here. I mean, truly, it's been just over a month that we're dealing with this situation. So we have to cut everybody a break here and take a breath and just let us be calm about it.
I think accepting, it's reminding yourself that no one has all the answers and everyone is learning as they're going along. This type of change doesn't usually happen within 2 months. It's normally hundreds of years. So I think the scale of change is quite extraordinary. But Gurney, we've had loads of questions firing through. I keep seeing them popping up. Maybe it's time to run a quick poll on some of the questions that we've had. So you guys can vote on the one that you would like us to answer right now. So, but in the meantime, while Gurney's setting that up and giving you guys the chance to vote, she'll then share the answers with me.
I'm telling you, they're some of the smartest people. They're, you're
totally
coming up with great questions.
What I suppose while we're covering this, what are the opportunities that's presented themselves? I can certainly think of some, but I know you've got loads to share.
Oh my gosh. There was a recruiter who was telling me that they actually wanted to hire someone, and this would happen to be in the UK, but they chose not to because they didn't have a way to onboard that person virtually. So if onboarding is something that you're excited about, some of the ideas I want to share, if you don't want to play in those pools if you're not excited about it. But if onboarding is something like that really kind of excites you, and assistants really know how to do this, onboarding assistants, onboarding executives, that's a trend we're seeing globally. That's an opportunity, because I think moving forward into this reentry, we are going to have to bring people on board virtually. How about the disaster plan? I don't think this is news to anybody. There's going to be a next time, like a next crisis. Hopefully it won't be for a really long time, but for those of us who lived through 9/11, we are now doing things differently as a result of that. We're now doing things differently as a result of 2008. We're going to be doing things differently as a result of this. And assistance can be integral in the creation of what that looks like, right?
Totally.
So if that's exciting to you, do we have ways to get to our people? How can we do this better? The big question to ask yourself is, are we ready? Are we ready for the next time? What other opportunities? My gosh, if you've got some time on your hands, you could be asking to have your seat at that virtual table. Ask to be sitting in on a meeting that would really be interesting to you and get you even more informed about what your company is doing. This is the time to, I mean it when I say you are smart. The assistants of the world see and hear everything. And my students know I I've been saying for a long time, this is the time to start saying and writing what you see and hear. If you have ideas about how to do this thing better, now's the time to say it. Those are some of the opportunities I see, Sven.
Yeah, I think I think they're all, the onboarding one is a really interesting one, but I think also, HR and operations and business support functions are just going to be totally overwhelmed because,
yes,
this is, the going back to work plan. No one's even really got a full idea of what that looks like. There's lots of conversations happening, but there's going to be opportunities to support with that, because again, so much work is going to come off the back of trying to get everyone back into the office in some way. That will present itself opportunities for assistants to be involved. And I think what your point around the fact that EAs see the most, I think is a really, really interesting one, and totally true, because they have access. You have access to the whole company. You see absolutely everything, and it's important that your leader has your perspective as well. So if you're not giving them your perspective, I think it's really important that you try hard to give that to them.
Well, I mean, that's what I loved about your Sarah story, about your office manager, because here's the thing, folks listening, Sarah did not ask to be in on that meeting. You asked her to be in on that meeting. And it was a surprise to you how much value she brought to each meeting. You were joking that she actually comes up with the best gem of the whole time.
She doesn't say loads, but when Sarah, I'm so super embarrassing her. She's gonna shout at me afterwards. But yeah, she doesn't say loads because
you can blame me, Sarah. Blame me.
She's not a chatterbox like me, but she does. But when she speaks, she says something absolutely incredible, and I'm like,
she has a vantage point. So here's the point that. Okay, so she didn't ask to be on the meetings. Now she is on the meetings. Hopefully, Sarah, you're not going to be shy about future meetings. That's the thing about getting that level of success. And I have one other thing to say about HR, and we'll do the polling.
Yeah.
HR, historically, the administrative staffs of the world have not been consulted about HR issues, and leaders have not historically consulted EAs about these kinds of issues that we're talking about now. But here's the thing, everybody, this is so extreme that, and HR, I think, Sven, you're so right, HR is going to be overwhelmed.
Totally.
I want to urge every executive assistant out there to offer yourself to HR, because you already know how your job descriptions have changed. There's going to be a need for revision of job descriptions, and who better to write them than you? And perhaps even, may I just say out loud, a rethinking of title structure in companies. Google, for example, has renamed their assistants all executive business partners.
Love it. I think it's brilliant.
And that's a trend we're seeing globally.
Yeah, I love that. I love that title. I think it's such a great reflection of what a true right hand should be.
It's reflective of what is actually going on. And pre-crisis, I traveled 14 countries, 38 states, and the assistants of the world in general feel that the job description they have as a written document bears very little resemblance to the job description they're actually doing. And so maybe, just maybe, now is the time to fix that. That's all I'm saying. And that HR doesn't have to do it alone. They're certainly going to need help, because prior to the crisis, they were, as I recall, many of them were very busy doing active shooter plans. Remember, we have a gun problem? Well, certainly in the United States we do. And then also the whole bullying and sexual harassment problem they were creating around Me Too and Time's Up and the Harvey Weinstein case. You've got to know that those issues have not totally gone away. So there's a lot on the plates of leaders and HR. And I believe executive assistants can really prove your relevance and your value by revealing what it is you know, because what you know is a lot.
Yeah. Agreed. So we've got the vote. Can we share the answers, guys? So we can answer the most popular question. Okay, so the top question to ask at the moment is: I'm feeling a bit useless since the EVP isn't traveling and the office isn't operating. How do I make myself relevant? we are going to be covering a lot of that over the next hour, but immediately, Bonnie, anything to say around that?
Well, how about, oh my gosh, all right. How about the whole notion of succession planning and procedures manuals? Most assistants acknowledge that a procedures manual, some assistants refer to them as the guidebook, the handbook, the assistant Bible. It's needed. It's a very time-intensive project though, but I mean, the reality is none of us knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We have this virus going around the world. We know, chances are there are people on this call who either have the virus who know somebody who's got it, and it's taking lives. We as a community, I think we need to look very honestly at succession planning and what if somebody is not there tomorrow for whatever reason, retirement, and maybe it's not their own sickness, maybe it's their own family member, but we need to prepare for, to prepare our companies for a situation when people won't be there. I think procedures manuals, both online and hard copy, is a great collaborative project for assistants to do. And one other quick one, you know what assistants are doing globally? They're creating Excel spreadsheets that they're putting on the team's shared drives. Contact information, not only about who you are and how they can find you, but the 1, 2, or 3 things that you're great at that you would love to mentor other people in. Your SME, your superpower, your subject matter expertise. That's happening. I spoke with an assistant in Belgium that's doing it, all over the United States. You can see the utility of a list like this, where it can be segmented, the administrative staff, sales, marketing. Frankly, I think it should have been done sooner. But maybe sometimes out of crisis reveals the need. And I see this as this is not busy work. This is something that could really be useful for the long term.
Yeah, and I think that's the opportunity now. Is one of the things that we're doing at Joss Search is we've sort of physically, we've in our heads, we're thinking about taking all of the furniture out of the house, looking at all of our processes and systems, and only putting back in the things that we think are actually useful and relevant with our processes. And I think assistants can do that. But my answer to that question is around the culture piece. I think EAs have such a high level of emotional intelligence. You're normally very sociable, collaborative beings. And I think now's, if you're not involved actively in keeping your company happy as much as possible and collaborating and social, then that's a huge opportunity for EAs to be taking the charge in that area, I think. And I think the direct answer to your question, we're going to come on with our tip is if your boss's job has changed because they're not traveling as much, it means that they're doing other things. So you need to think like them. What are they doing? What are they actually doing now? So if they're not traveling and they're not having as many in-person meetings, they are still working. Their job has changed. So your job needs to change with theirs.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you offer needs to change with them in a way.
And just one other quick thought about that is think back to pre-crisis and those meetings that couldn't happen because there wasn't time. The people that your executive wanted to meet with, but for some reason it didn't happen. It could be that you create this whole new list of things to revisit, to say, might there be a reason to do it now, and to set these things up virtually. It's amazing what's going on. And to really be aware, I was watching an interview with Mary Barra the other night on 60 Minutes. She's the CEO of GM, General Motors. They're no longer producing cars. They're producing ventilators and they're producing masks. And Mary was saying things like that they're thinking about when people come back to the plant, they're going to take everybody's temperature before they enter the building. Maybe that's going to be, so if you have ideas about how to keep your people safe when you're going back into reentry, that is increasing your value. If you have some of these ideas, to talk with each other first and then to present it in writing to your leaders.
Bonnie, we've had a nudge because we've only covered one topic.
Oh,
So we're going to have to move on to topic 2.
Okay. Yep.
Which is all around why leaders need the perspective that assistants offer. I mean, we've covered a little bit of it, but I suppose it would be good from your perspective. It's tough for everyone, but what do you think are the main challenges for leaders?
You know, the reality is I've heard this validated from several leaders and their assistants, is that CEOs and leaders have been caught as much off guard by this situation as the staff has. And in fact, when leaders have had to lay off and, you know, make the tough decisions, it's painful. I spoke with one yesterday. You know, it's torturous, and she actually described it as she's grieving. And this was here in the United States, in Chicago. You know, we need a big dose of empathy here, and to acknowledge that everyone is taken aback. And here's the thing: people deal with stress differently. So assistants, this is where your emotional intelligence skills really come in handy for your leaders. I can say that the best leaders out there, the most effective leaders out there who I see, are actively soliciting input and feedback from everybody, from the administrative staff, but teams in other areas of the company. This builds respect, and, you know, the idea of being vulnerable is a good thing. Being vulnerable in this situation is fine. And to be, you know, people will remember how, you know, we're going to get past this, but I believe that we are going to have a very strong memory of how people behaved through it. And if leaders can be flexible with their staffs and you know, acknowledge the work at home and the children, the child care, that those are concerns, and for us to be extra mindful, both leaders and assistants, about what time of day are we at our best, at our most high energy. We want to pay attention to that, because maybe we think about those things when we're scheduling these Zoom calls, and let us, you know, calm down the judgments about people's backgrounds and how they look, and, you know, the idea of having kids and dogs and cats running through. I think that we have this volatile situation right now, and leaders will do very well to tap into their teams, but to be, as one CEO put it, tender-hearted, and for executive assistants to take a step back too and really try to empathize, but do not be afraid to reveal your own pain and stress about what is it that's making you anxious. The best leaders are the ones who are being transparent and accountable for how things are going down. The companies that are the most stable right now, who I see, the leaders are going on video every few days to give updates, even if they don't have all the answers, but to give updates.
And I think that's when in a previous life would people have had that much access to their leadership team. I think that's another thing that's come out of this, is you're probably more regularly seeing and hearing from the people in senior positions in your organization. And I think that just sort of reflects the challenges that they're under and the pressure that they're under. I mean, from my own personal experience, we're recruiters, and there are limited jobs to recruit. It's very, very quiet, and hiring isn't a huge priority. So it's kind of exactly the same for the recruiters at Joss Search, who are used to recruiting jobs taking up 90% of their role and their time. They've now had to flip that completely and find other ways to keep themselves relevant. And I think that translates nicely to EAs as well. So
one quick point about that. This is the time to do extra training also. If you find yourself with time on your hands, your leaders will benefit from any education. And there's so much online right now that, Savan knows about, I know about, Vicki Evans knows about. Ask us. This would be the time to be honest about your own skill set, because the people in the end who are going to be without work, the truth is that they will have allowed their skills to become stagnant and stale. In this environment, if you love cybersecurity, because my goodness, hacking is rampant right now.
Oh my God, yeah, phishing
To
is
learn
crazy.
more about that, right? Phishing and spoofing, like there's this whole new vocabulary. When did we ever know about social distancing? It's just a whole new landscape, and it's filled with opportunity, actually.
No, it really is. It really is. And like the opportunist part of me is excited by that for everybody, because I think, you know, the characteristics of great assistants that I see are gonna you know, they're gonna fly right now. You know, they're gonna have the opportunity to really have influence, and that's really exciting, and be even more valuable to their leaders than before. I think we've had a technical. Is this the same poll? No, yeah, thanks, Gurney. Good. Okay, you have to bear with us, guys. We're trying to improve
Gurney,
as we go along.
Well, you know, actually, this makes a point. How great that Gurney's behind the scenes here. You as assistants could say to your leaders, you know what, I'd like to sit on that meeting, and I can be helpful if any technical issues come up. And that way you get to learn. You know, if for some reason you feel like they would be reluctant to say yes, that's a reason why they would say yes. Yeah. I don't know if any of you caught the Sondheim thing the other night on Broadway.com on Sunday night, which was amazing. It ended up starting an hour late. They had 104,000 people waiting for this concert by people doing it from their homes about Stephen Sondheim, and it started a whole hour late because of the
tech
host
problems.
He had audio problems and he didn't know it, and I was like, where's the assistant? Where's the
yeah
so
or like
crazy.
That poor MP in Wales. I don't know if you saw that, but there was this MP in Wales who was swearing about one of his colleagues on a Zoom meeting, and I think giving people support in these meetings is 100% necessary.
Right?
I spent all of last night trying to work out Teams. I was like, help.
It's not, you don't know what you don't know. There's a learning curve with all of these technologies, and if you're the one to be the expert, that's gold to your leaders to make things run smoothly.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly finish off on we've kind of covered that. I think actually let's quickly run another poll, Gurney, just before we move on to the next topic. So we've had so many questions, so can you just pop those into another poll? And the next part of the conversation is all going to be around how we can help you guys be part of the conversation now. So I get asked that question all the time, you know, how can I be proactive? How can I do this? How can I do that? We've given you guys the context, I think, about why your opinion's important. If you think we haven't, please say, and we can cover that in a bit more detail. But leaders really do need the perspective of their EAs now more than ever, and they probably don't know that they need it. In fact, they definitely probably don't know, because most of the time they think they know a lot of things. I can speak because I'm also sometimes think like that. But assistants do need to be part of the conversation, and you know, what can they do? And how can they be part of the conversation now? And if you guys quickly answer the poll as well at the same time. So Bonnie, if you want to crack on answering that.
This is about, excuse me, I'm sorry, aligning with your leader's goals. And with this extreme, volatile, crazy situation, that seems to be changing by the day. So it's critical that, it seems to me that it's useful, certainly, perhaps not critical, for you to be in your executive's inbox, so you get to be privy to the things that are being said and what are the issues in play. And then if you can sit in on some meetings, I have to say that I've heard some complaints from the other side about assistants who are sitting in on so many meetings with their executives that the administrative team, their peers, are a little upset about that.
Well, it's got to be collaborative, right?
It's got to be collaborative. There's got to be a balance. So it can't be all one or the other. So like anything else, there needs to be really clear communication. The communication is critical. We're only into this a month now. We're in the thick of it right now. These next few weeks are going to reveal a lot of answers that we don't have at the moment. So I would just urge you, as much as you can, to understand what the priorities are for your leaders so you can help them further those goals. If your leader is overwhelmed with things, it could be that you're proactive and you see in the inbox that there's a response that needs to be created. Go ahead and just create it, perhaps. Like if you absolutely feel on solid footing that you know how to handle that, you could just say to your leader, you know what, I took a shot at this response, take a look. And if you're right, if there are minor edits, then that sets you up to do more. Mm-hmm. When you get wind of projects that are being planned, online task forces, it could be, we said it in our prep call, Savannah, that you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So your leader won't know that you want to sit in on a certain meeting because you happen to know a lot about cybersecurity, or you happen to have a real interest in the onboarding about how that's going to happen moving forward. I'm just using these as examples.
Or the return to work strategy.
Yeah, or the reentry plan. It could be you raise your hand to say, you know what, that really fascinates me, and I'd really like to be in on that. What I see in the future, months, maybe a year down the road, is that there will be opportunity for executive assistants to be involved in new training programs, like the creation of training at their company. Because I'm hearing buzz from a lot of leaders saying that we're going to have to retrain our people. And people on the chat are asking about training. And I promise you by the end of this that we will talk through some training options that's free online. A lot of it's free, and not all of it's free. But Vicki Evans, redcapeco.com, a lot of us have these trainers, your favorite trainers and speakers have YouTube channels. We're putting out so much content. So there's loads
of content. There's lots. And I think upskilling is definitely, if you don't feel confident, something you're interested in, but it's not something you're confident in, then I think pushing forward and making sure you know the answers, or as if I've upskilled you and educated yourself before you approach it. Can we quickly get share the results of the polls so we can answer that question? Okay, so Bonnie, where do you see the future of the EA/AA role 5 years from now? What type of training would help someone who has been in the profession for 20 years? Because this is a very different environment from when we started.
It sure is. And how interesting that was the question with the most responses. Let me just first say, I don't have a crystal ball, but if it were me, with 20 years experience, I would be doing a very clear evaluation of my own technical skills to see what my niche is going to be. I think there's going to be need for niche, for specific roles, specialists, for example. I think there's going to be a need for training people. Not everybody's great at it. You can be a great executive assistant, and that does not equate with being a great teacher. That also doesn't equate with being a great manager of people. I would urge you to take a step back, because I experience many of my students asking the hard questions. What is it that you want? The question is a two-part. It's what is the market going to need, right? But it's also about what is it that you want to do? Do you want to exploit your language skills? There will be a need there for translation, for sure. There's going to be a need for training. There's going to be a need for succession planning of a big way. Certainly to get your Microsoft Office certifications would be useful, for sure, because the technology and the ability to do a presentation and create the spreadsheet and create a beautiful document, that's not going away. Absolutely.
No, I think that's a huge thing. I think a lot of people are scared about AI taking away assistants' jobs, and I see it as the opposite. I think AI will free you up to do other things if you use it properly, but only if you learn to master it.
Right.
And so I think,
just like this is a tool,
Yeah.
This didn't take away jobs. This
No.
laptop computer didn't take away jobs. AI is going to be a tool for executive assistants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that the tech part, you've really, really, really got to up your game there. There's like
Right.
no.
But I also think leadership training is useful because the ability to master communication with a lot of different personality types, that isn't an innate skill either. As high as your executive emotional intelligence is, AI, EQ, it still requires additional training for leadership. And historically, assistants didn't have to do any training, actually. For a long, long, long time, it was, there's your chair, there's your desk, there's your phone, see you in 20 years. Those days are over. So, a lot of assistants are working virtually. And if you can master this, Teams is the thing that's going to be with us for a very long time. So it's about mastering that. There's a lot, but baby steps. And it really is right now, the most immediate need is to be clear on what your subject matter expertise is right now.
Yeah.
And then to expand on it if you're looking to remain employed for another decade, because it's changing fast.
And tapping into your, working with the other assistants in your business to work collaboratively and tap into each other's superpower. If you don't work collaborative now and you think, right, this is my own, and of course it's your own, everyone's individualistic, and it's definitely your own opportunity to shine as well, but you don't want to do that at the expense of your colleagues. It's about all of you. It's about bringing each other up. It's about all of you looking great and showing the value of your role as much as possible. Obviously, it's it's not your responsibility to totally make some, but if you see yourself as a more senior executive assistant in your business, now's the time to mentor the more junior ones and help them come through it, because help them be better. And that's where you say the leadership part comes in as well. Are there any other tangible things that you think assistants can do over and above the business as usual things like diary and travel at the moment?
I think it really piggybacks onto your last point, which is to teach each other. If we acknowledge that every person on a team has subject matter expertise, now would be the time in your weekly meetings, your half-hour meetings, however you're coming together on Zoom or video conferencing of some kind, is that people take turns. Teach us something in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. First of all, let's tell each other what our areas of expertise are, and then how about we teach each other? That is still a pretty new idea in 2020, not for all teams, but for many teams. And, my students won't be surprised when I say this, that, let's acknowledge we still are a profession that's 95 to 98% females, and that historically we have not always played nice together. There has not been necessarily encouragement to collaborate and cooperate and partner with each other. And I'm here to say that we have to be done with that. The silos have to be over. There's so much to know. There's so much at stake in this workplace. We have to do it better. We have to figure it out. So that's tangible. That is absolutely tangible. You make it your business to teach each other.
Totally. And what Megan here has just popped on the chat saying, no, it's gone. Sorry. It's basically said, that I saw quickly her execs asked her to teach him how to use Outlook, because he was like, and she's given him a masterclass on that. Like, that's great, because they are having to be more tech savvy and do things themselves, which is good. I think thinking like leaders is my key tip on that, is just put yourself in your boss's shoes. Think about what they're doing, and and what are the challenges they're facing, and how can you support them. And
the big difference is sorry for the interruption, but in the old days, it was that leaders were up here and assistants were down here, so everything was funneling down, right? No more. The complexity of this workplace is requiring that it become more peer-like. And you have different partnership, truly, that we're not giving lip service to that word. It's a word with meaning. And, there is a perception problem with the role. But we can all now in this extreme situation, finally, with the help of the media, it'd be great if mass media could come along with this, to change the perception of this role. To be one that is really deserving of major respect and acknowledgement because of the vast responsibility you hold.
Bonnie, I think that we've only got 8 minutes left, and I'm just conscious that I think one of the key things that you and I are both big believers in, that a lot of assistants won't realize they're actually allowed to do, is that getting no's is difficult. I've seen it frequently through the chats. Like, my boss, don't say this. I asked my boss and he's dismissive, there's a lot of that. And it can be getting no's is difficult. It can be really demoralizing. How would you reframe this to ensure your confidence isn't affected and that you keep going?
Yeah. Okay. So prior to the crisis, there was a confidence problem and an inability to handle the no's then too. No's are hard because we're in the yes business. We're in the yes business. And here's the thing for assistants in this new situation we're in with our leaders who are caught off guard too, is to not take no for an answer. It could be that this is not the good day. It used to be that you could actually go into your executive's office. Now it's made even more challenging because you're having to do it over Zoom. You're not physically in the same room. I can understand how it's hard enough to have a difficult conversation in person, never mind over a computer. I would urge you to know that, to think about answering the question, what's in it for them if they say yes to you? Let us prove what's in it for your leader to give you the runway for the things you're asking for, whatever it is. You're there in part to help give your leader their time back. Show them how that can happen. It's not enough to say, what can I do for you? It's much better to be proactive and to take some action. And if you feel strongly about something, put a few brief thoughts in writing to send it, because to put something in writing communicates the seriousness with which you're taking this. And let me just say, you have every right to share how you are feeling and thinking.
And Bonnie, I love in our rehearsal call, you were talking around, you gave 2 examples of just how if you get a no, you can reframe it, which I really thought was great, and it was a politer way than I would say it. And then you also said about the exec who used to wait for their assistant to send it a second time. Is that right? You
want me to tell that briefly?
I think so.
I think assistants need to hear this. I say this at B2A. A lot of assistants know what it is to fight for training dollars. Hopefully not anymore, but okay. So if you've had to do that, I actually had more than one executive say to me that if an assistant asks for training, in this case, it was 2 men, they did not say anything. They did not respond. And they said to me, they wait until an assistant asks a second time, because that would tell them how important the training is to the assistant. And so the lesson there for all of us is, I hate the game playing, frankly, but the message is, let us not take no for an answer. And historically, we're socialized as women to take no for an answer. Then the polite way to say to your executive, executive, I have an idea about that project that we're working on for next week. Do you have 5 minutes for me to tell you what those ideas are? It's respectful to ask if someone has a minute to talk, or would you like me to put my ideas in writing? Because I'm excited about, I'm thinking there's something that you may be interested in hearing. Ask first.
And when they say no or ignore you, then what?
Then you try again. Then you reframe it. You choose your moment. Maybe you're sitting in on a meeting and, you say, hey, Joe, I'd like to revisit that one idea, because maybe now would be the time to do that. You know, could I just ask a clarifying question about that? That will be seen as not, it's one thing to raise an issue. It's another if you're the one bringing a solution to the table that could actually work.
I think that's the key thing, is if you come with a question, have a solution, because I think most execs do not want another problem, you know, especially right now. They've got so many. If you can give them a solution, then that's incredible. And I think, you know, in sales, it's like a basic sales technique, but no just means I need more information, right?
Yeah.
Like if they say no, it's because they just need more information. So just keep giving them more information.
Well, and the other thing, please keep in mind, everyone, that historically the assistants were not looked to for this kind of information. And I'm here to say it's a new day. We have to do it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're coming up to 3 o'clock. I think we wanted to give you guys a little challenge to go away with, and then we'll fire on to some questions. And it was just around in the next 30 days to try and persuade your leader or your exec to be able to sit in on one meeting. You know, just to have the opportunity to just sit in virtually on one meeting and offer to take the minutes, or and just see what comes off the back of that. So that's kind of our challenge. Our challenge to you guys. So we've got lots of questions, and we'll run another poll if that's okay, just with the questions. But in the meantime, I'm being shouted at by somebody on the chat in capitals. Oh, it's Ben. Please address this. How can you ensure that your role and responsibilities are always progressing past the typical EA duties? Bonnie, I'll pass that one over to you.
Okay.
Actually.
Again, people don't know what they don't know. Anne Hyatt, the other day, who used to be with Jeff Bezos, had a brilliant suggestion. She told her leader what she intended. To reveal your intentions. My intention is I'm planning on getting promoted, and these are the projects that I'd like to be involved in. I'd like to volunteer for these things. My intent is to grow my role here in ABC ways. And she put it in writing, and she shared her intention right up front. That is because they won't know. I believe people put people in boxes. Like we think we know who you are, and we don't all walk around with our resumes. So we don't know that you're a graphics expert. We don't know that you're fluent in 4 languages. We have to help others know us. I know this bumps up against the idea that women are not, and certain cultures are certainly not encouraged to brag or to toot your own horn, say. But as my 31-year-old son says, you know what, Mom, it's not bragging if it's true. Say the truth.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, Bonnie, I'm going to quickly share our 7 tips for how you can add value right now, because I think that's really helpful. Bear with me. I'm gonna. And while you're
doing that, I wanted to address the training thing to a little bit, and that is, Vicki and I are going to, the replays from our webinars are on online on LinkedIn. Please follow me on LinkedIn. Please go to my website. But we're interviewing on May 7th, Libby Moore. Libby used to be the chief of staff to Oprah Winfrey, and she has some amazing things to share. You know, when you talk about free training, and Vicki Evans is going to be doing a slew of things. I'm sure the replay is available from last week, right? When she delivered a brilliant presentation.
It's on our website.
Right? Okay. So
we got like a 97% NPS score. It was amazing. So I think,
no pressure on me.
Yeah. Bonnie, you're just as great. So what can assistants do to show value? So do you want to just quickly talk through your top 7?
You know, hopefully we covered these, but align with your leaders' goals. You know, read what they're reading. Please do speak up. Be proactive. Don't wait. You're not going to assume anything because the rules are new. Ask. Please ask. They won't know if you don't ask about a lot of things. Empathy, put yourself in your leader's shoes. Mentorship. Now's the time to approach your peers with leaders for mentorship, the things that you really would like to learn. And learn. That's the key to the future. I promise you that's the key
Yeah,
to the future,
I
and
totally
being employed moving forward.
totally agree. But these are God. See, this is where like tech.
That's okay.
I need help. Sorry, Bonnie.
That's okay.
But the just sort of in summary, I'm going to quickly share your contact details now.
Great.
As well. Share.
Please link in with me. LinkedIn is the big game changer in my view.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm using it loads, and it's great. And I think it's just a great opportunity to learn from other people doing things brilliantly as well. So we've summarized. So again, I guess we've come to 3:00. Bonnie, thank you so much for your time.
You're so welcome.
I think, it's been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed this hour. And Bonnie, I mentioned at the start, she has Be the Ultimate Assistant, her training, which is in November in Paris. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to be in Paris. However, in the meantime, oh, my goodness, the live events have gotten canceled, but please connect with me if I can be helpful in your company. Many companies have begun to put their minds on, well, you know what, let's do it virtually. And I'd love to help you with that. So just connect with us. We're doing a lot of cool things. Vicki and I are launching a 4-part webinar series with more guests. So we'll be announcing that in the next couple of days.
Great. You can connect. We'll share your contact details with the recording and with the key takeaways. I just wanted to quickly give a plug for next week's Jossie Talk, if that's all right with everybody. And next week's is slightly different. We recognize that the majority of people on this call are in employment and happy employment. And there are a lot of people who have unfortunately lost their jobs and are out of work at the moment. We all know people in our family, our friendship, our network who have lost their jobs, and we are running a webinar specifically for people who have been furloughed, have been laid off, have been made redundant, or are unemployed, and that's for next week. And it's all about finding your work purpose and giving you the tools you need to land your dream job. So it's a slightly different one. It's much more for the wider community rather than our immediate community. So please share it with anyone you know who you think is feeling scared right now. They're out of a job and they need some tips from we've got 4 great speakers who are going to be dissecting your career, if you like, and looking at your work purpose, your brand identity, your personal brand, how you're identifying yourself in your career, tips from a recruitment company on doing your CV, interviewing, things like that. And then we've got an employer's perspective. So we've got a hiring manager from a client of ours. We're going to talk about what they look for from hiring people. So please share it with your communities of people who you think would benefit from a session like this. And don't take the slot if you're in a job, because that's not the point of it. It's for people who haven't got a job. And that's next week. So please help us get that spread far and wide, because we really want to help as many people as possible with that. So I think that's everything from us. Anything else you wanted to say, Bonnie?
Not really. I mean, there's so many things. I'm just so delighted to have had a global audience here today. This is not the end.
Nope.
Sivan wants to hear from you, as do I. We know that this is a very tough time in the world, but we will come out of this. My strongest wish is that as a community, we're going to hear about people who have lost their jobs. And I hope that we can come together and decide that anybody who needs a job, we're going to help find a job, and that if they need training in order to strengthen their skills, we're going to help guide them to that too. Because in the end, as Sivan, you said, when we elevate one, we elevate all. Mm-hmm. And we, as a profession dominated by women, we need to do this more than ever. We need strength. We're much better together. 1,000 heads on this call, much better than one. So thank you for this opportunity, Sivan.
Yeah, no, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. I love it. I love that. It's all about teamwork. I'm a big believer in that. So thanks everyone. Happy Wednesday wherever you are,
Yeah.
and we're having some great comments. Thank you so much. Yes, all of our webinars are recorded because we know that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Your exec calls, you need to jump off and deal with that. We get it. That's
Yeah.
fine. So they're all recorded so that when you need them, you can tap in.
May you and your family stay healthy and safe.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. I'm gonna shut this down and see you all. So I probably won't see a lot of you next week because it's a different type, but hopefully I'll see some of your friends and family, and I'll be able to give them some hope and purpose. And but we'll actually, oh no, there is one other thing while you're here. If there's anything that you want us to cover specifically in the slot the week after, please let me know. We've had requests for personal branding, we've had requests for tech skills again. So if anyone that's still left wanted to just pop anything that they wanted us to cover into the Q&A and the chat, we'll make sure we pick that up at the end, and we can make sure these are topical and relevant. What are you doing the rest of the day, Bonnie? Have you got loads more events?
Oh my gosh, more meetings, back-to-back meetings. They're all virtual. I spend my life on camera these days. Crazy. But,
it's quite scary. It's quite upsetting looking at yourself this much, isn't it? It's like, wow, I didn't know I raised my eyebrows so much.
Yeah, I click into that. Well, it's been a joy, and I'm so delighted to see all these familiar names. Stay strong, everybody. We're in the thick of it now, and we have to stick together. Wow. That's great. What I think.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to shut this down. Happy Wednesday. See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.